Hello, welcome to Beach View, our podcast about all sorts of things and stuff.
Yes, and today we're doing another movie, this time the 1942 film Casablanca.
Yeah, so going with a classic film here.
Yes.
One that you hear references to or read references to probably more often. You know, I would say probably relatively frequently for it being such an old movie.
Yeah, well, it is considered like one of the greatest films of all time.
Yeah.
Still has that reputation.
Which is why I was surprised that neither of us has seen it.
I don't think that's all that surprising.
Well, I feel like we watch enough movies that we were like, you know, at some point probably should have come across it, but never did.
I don't know. I don't have like a really good repertoire of films I've seen. I especially haven't delved too deeply into classic cinema.
Yeah, when I think of old movies, I think of like 1980s movies. So this is definitely
Yeah.
like much older than that.
Yes. I know I call movies classic a lot, but this one actually like definitely is.
Oh, for sure. This is like no argument. Definitely classic movie, classic actors, you know,
Yep.
very renowned actors.
Second Ingrid Bergman movie we're watching.
Yeah,
some reason.
that's right.
Just happened out that way.
Very interesting.
She's better in this one.
I 100% agree. But I kind of like still didn't see like the great hype though. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
Wow, I thought she was good in this.
Yeah, I thought she was fine, but like wasn't she like nominated or won Best Actress or something?
I don't know for this film.
Okay. Maybe I made that up.
That she did win Best Supporting Actress for Murder on the Orient Express.
Oh, maybe that's what I was thinking of. Yeah, but I thought she was better in this one for sure. Yeah, so what were your thoughts as a whole?
Yeah, so I thought this was really good, unsurprisingly. You know, it's a classic for a reason. You know, the acting's really sharp. There's a lot of, like, funny lines, a lot of just, like, good sort of one-liners and quotable lines. I guess not one-liners, but, like, there's a lot of good back and forth, a lot of, like, good lines.
Yeah, 100% agree. I would say I was a little surprised at how good it was. Only, not, you know, obviously I know it's a classic, but for me, a lot of times, like, I don't love older classic movies. I just don't really get into them. I don't like them. So I was a little surprised that I did like this one.
I mean, this is eminently watchable, I feel like, to any sort of, like, modern viewer. You know, the dialogue's snappy, the plot, like, moves along at a fine pace, you know, there's no, like... I feel like there's not a lot of, like, old movie stuff that would, like, get in the way.
Yes.
Like, you know, some people might not like.
Yes, 100%. I definitely agree. And like you were talking about the like kind of one-liners or the snappy delivery, I was kind of surprised at that. I don't know why. I mean, I know older movies had, you know, that in it as well, but I guess for me, like kind of some of the like comedic lines
Yeah.
I thought was like I was just a little surprised, like, oh, that still holds up today, you know?
I'm shocked that this place has gambling.
Yeah.
Here's your winnings.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I thought that was, like, really funny in a way that, like, it didn't seem super dated. You know, like, a lot of times for me, like, watching old movies, that's what I don't like about it, is that, like, you can tell it's just dated and it doesn't hold up still, you know? But I felt like this, you know, you could obviously watch it today and feel like it's still a good story and still good delivery of the lines and stuff like that.
I feel like we're circling around the word timeless.
Oh, yes.
Like you know, it's definitely situated in a certain time and place, but it feels like, I mean, and maybe that's just like it's very influential, so a bunch of films have like taken its lead, but yeah. It does not feel its age.
Yeah, I agree. And I was kind of surprised. One thing I read about it was that it was like kind of a surprise that this film did so well and that it, you know, is now considered a classic. That it was just like, you know, another release from, I think it was Warner Brothers.
Yes.
They didn't like plan it to be this like amazing movie. It just kind of was happenstance. Like what I read was like the screenplay that it was adapted from was not like anything crazy, like, you know, like critically acclaimed, I guess. It was just like a normal screenplay, which I don't, you know, I don't really know what the definition of normal is, but that it just was a surprise success. And that was interesting to me because it did get, you know, some critical acclaim, and just thought that was interesting that it wasn't planned that way. It was just like, hey, we're releasing this movie and hopefully it, you know, does well. But it became a classic, which is really kind of cool.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I was, you know, I've heard the names Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman, and I forget who else is in it, but other famous names. And you know, wasn't real familiar with them, so I was kind of happy to see that. And like you said, the kind of the time and place of this was interesting to me. Yeah, I thought it was a good movie. And it didn't, you know how like some of my complaints about like Murder on the Orient Express, like a, you know, older movie, like the acting style and that kind of stuff that I didn't like. I didn't think this had, you know, those kind of elements in it, so you know, I liked it. Some of the stuff, like obviously, like the driving scenes where you could tell it's like totally fake. But I mean, even still in movies today, you can tell the driving scenes are totally fake. So
there are modern
haven't
movies
come that
with
far.
that problem. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah. So anyway, I'm glad we finally watched it.
Yeah. No, definitely worth the hype.
Yeah, definitely.
But I guess I'll get into a plot synopsis.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, so, during World War II, Casablanca becomes the sort of last exit point for, well, I guess the penultimate exit point. You go from Casablanca to Lisbon, Portugal, out to the Americas, for basically people fleeing the war, particularly, people who have reason to flee the Nazis. And, it centers around Rick's bar, or, well, cafe, I guess.
Saloon. Whatever.
Yeah. And Rick's an American who lives in Casablanca, runs this establishment, and opens with him at his establishment. The German, what's the Gestapo, right? Shows up.
Yes.
And I didn't quite I don't know from history like what the relationship was here, but it seems like it's French occupied Morocco.
Yeah.
And it seems like they have some degree of autonomy here, as compared with like France, where they're still like in charge, but they're not allowed to just like roll over the French government.
It kind of seemed that way to me. I was a little curious about that, and I didn't look that up, but
no,
I was like, I'm sure there's some like political, you know, things here that we could that would make more sense to us, but I didn't look that up.
Yeah, like I just didn't know the history behind that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Rick's bar is there, and there is a visa salesman that comes in and asks Rick to help him with the he's gotten a hold of some like basically foolproof visa by killing some German officers or someone, and he's gotten this, you know, and he's like his business is selling visas to people who want to get out, and he has these. And he hands them to Rick for safekeeping, but he gets arrested that night at the bar. God, I really should write these beforehand.
It's okay.
Leaving Rick with these visas, because he later gets killed. And there's him, and there's the French head of police, I believe, was his role.
I think so. Yeah, I think he said police commander or whatever.
Yeah, and he's very laissez-faire in his attitude.
Seems like it.
Yeah, and Rick, who's very self-interested, doesn't really want to get involved with anything. Seems like he only cares for himself, but there's little hints that maybe this is just a veneer he puts up. He's not actually as cynical as he says.
He said, I don't stick my neck out for anyone or something.
Yep.
Something like that. Yeah.
But anyways, the reason the Germans are there is presumably because there's news that a resistance leader from Czechoslovakia is going to be in Casablanca, had escaped from a concentration camp to do so, and they want to be there to apprehend him. He shows up with his well, I guess we don't know that she's his wife yet, but he shows up with a woman named Ilsa, who, her and Rick have a history, apparently.
Yeah.
And, yeah, at first we don't know what that is, but they're, like, she, like, summons him over, and, they have, like, very tense exchange. And then we have a flashback, or, well, no, then he's, like, caught up drinking at night, and she shows up again to try to, like, explain herself, but he's all, like, shitty about it, so she runs off.
Yeah.
Yeah, then we have the flashback of them in Paris, and they were lovers in Paris. They had a bit of a tryst, but then the Germans came to occupy Paris, so he fled. She was supposed to flee with him, but she ended up standing him up at the train station.
I didn't catch why. I don't remember.
She didn't say why.
Okay.
She just left him with a note that said, like, his piano, like, she handed a note to his piano player, who he brought with him to Casablanca, and he's, like, left in the rain, reading the note.
Yeah.
Before, like, being pulled onto the last call of the train to go, you know, escape Paris.
Yeah, I want to know why.
Yeah, which we don't find out until later. Did you not catch why?
No, I didn't. I forgot.
She says why.
I don't remember. What did she say?
Well, we'll get there when we get there.
We'll get to that. Okay, we'll get to that.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I think I remember.
So he's all upset about this. But this resistance leader. What was his name?
Laszlo.
Yeah, Victor Laszlo. I have to never remember these names. Yeah, Victor Laszlo. Is trying to secure passage, and he finds out he can't get any. Like, nobody's willing to, or the main visa salesman's not willing to stick his neck out because apparently they have, like, the Germans have enough cause to, like, trap him in Casablanca, but they can't, like, flat out arrest him. There's some, like, legal situation preventing that. But during this, when he's talking to them, he talks to the guy, and he's like, this one guy had basically foolproof visas that you could get out with. Oh, he also says, I'd be willing to sell to your wife. I could probably get her out. They wouldn't care about that, but not to you. And they have, like, a conversation about whether or not they should take that offer. They decide not to. But he says, yeah, so the visas exist, but that guy's dead. So they find out Rick may be in possession of them.
Mm-hmm.
So they go to Rick to bargain for them, and he says no. Both him and Ilsa do at various points. And then he goes out at night to a resistance meeting, which breaks bad. Ends up in their bar, in Rick's bar, at the same time that his wife does to try to, like, beg him for it. Points the gun at him to get it, then refuses to shoot, and is like, oh, I'm still in love with you, you know, I don't want to leave you now, just give my husband the visas and we'll go.
We'll run away together.
Yeah. And this presents him, like, sort of a moral conflict for him. Does he support his desire for love, or does he support the resistance member? Anyways, he shows up. He has this all planned out. Like, he has a confrontation with Victor, where Victor's like, look, I forget what the specifics was, but he was like, you can run away with my wife. I'll be fine. You just need to, like, support me for the resistance. And it initially looks like he's gonna take the plan to, like, run away with his wife, but then it gets time, he's like, okay, meet me in my bar later, and I'll give you the visas, and he does that. He also calls the, captain of the police, the French captain, where he's like, look, I'll give him up for you if you come and show up at my bar, in exchange for basically, you know, ensuring that these visas go through. And he does that. He shows up and, like, has him set up where he's like, here, I'll sell you these I will sell you this illegal product.
Yeah.
And then the captain pops out and arrests him, or attempts to do so, but then Rick points his gun at him, and he's like, we're gonna go to the airport, and they're gonna get out. And they end up going to the airport, but not before the captain ends up calling his, like, the head Nazi in charge here in Casablanca, and he ends up in a situation where he let convinces both Ilsa and the resistance leader to go on the plane, and he's like, yeah, y'all go. He sells his bar the day before, too, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's like, yeah, y'all go,
Yeah, so you really don't know, like, leading up to that, like, is he trying to go away with Elsa?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that's what it seems like.
Oh, yeah, and also, the reason why, she left is because, she says her husband's dead, and the reason she said that's because he was in a concentration camp. Then she says, I found out, when we were gonna leave, that my husband was still alive, so I couldn't go with you, I had to go back to him.
Yeah, I did remember that after a minute, which it seemed like she really believed that he was dead. Because at first I was like, is she just, like, playing him?
Well, I mean, he was in a concentration camp, so.
Yeah. But no, at first I was like, was she just saying that because her husband was away? And then I was like, no, I really think she thought that he was dead, and then she found out he was alive.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Because I was trying to, like, I was going back and forth the whole time, like, does she really still love Rick? Or is this just, like, a ploy to get the visa? You know what I mean?
Yeah. But it seems like she did really love him. At least that's what her husband says it there. No, that's what, the captain says after they leave on the plane. But, yeah, before that happens, the plane's, like, taking off. The, Nazi officer shows up and is like, stop that plane, blah, blah, I'm gonna make a phone call to the tower. But then he gets shot by Rick.
Mm-hmm. Rick, a little murderer.
He's a Nazi. But yeah, so he shoots some, and then, the captain is like, when all the rest of the guards was like, the commander's been shot, round up the usual suspects. And then they, run off together to presumably join the resistance, Rick having, like, completed his, sort of, moral dilemma by choosing to side with the, resistance instead of, being selfish.
Yeah, we like that.
Yeah, I left a lot out there. There's a lot about, like, it seems like he's always been this sort of guy. It's just like he was cynical for a few years there, either because of the breakup or just, like, the war and wanting to get away from it.
It was like his, long-lost love was back, and it kind of awoke something in him. So I thought, that like, moral choice that he made at the end is, I think, what makes the movie so good. But there were a couple of points that I was a little confused on. So the part where, like, they're getting the plane ready and the pilot is, like, talking to, whoever. And he's like, there's fog, gonna be fog until, like, 0500 hours, whatever. I thought it was gonna be, like, too foggy to take off. Was that just for, like, suspense? Like, what was that about? Because they still took off in the fog.
I thought that was meant to be, like, just a report. Like, that's just, like, an establishing sort of thing. Like, oh, he's prepping the plane. Because that's, like, the last plane out of the night.
I wouldn't get on that tiny little plane in that kind of fog, but also, like, desperate times call for desperate measures, I guess, but...
I don't think that was meant to be, like, oh, it's gonna be dangerous. I think that was just, like, this is what this guy does. He reports the weather. Like...
Got you. Okay, because I was like, it's foggy, y'all.
That's how I took it, at least.
Well, I also have fear of flying, so that probably played into my thoughts on that. So that was a little touch of confusion there. And I was also a little confused, like, did she really love Rick, or was she playing him, as I said? But it seemed like, her expressions on her face and stuff, like, seemed like she really did still love him. But that was a point that I was kind of like, I don't know. Because she didn't seem particularly lovingly, to her husband, so I was kind of like,
Yeah, that's what Rick tells to, her husband, that she was just lying about it, her affections.
Yeah, and I kind of felt like that was just a, like, he's doing her a solid by being like, I know she was lying, she really loves you, like kind of like the decent man-to-man kind of thing, I guess, is what I took that as. But, yeah, I mean, there was, just a couple of little things like that I was like, it really made you think. And I don't know if it, like I said, it might have just been me, but but I thought that was interesting. I also thought it was really interesting that, like, the path to get back to America was going, like, from Casablanca to Lisbon back to America. Like, I was wondering why that was. if Lisbon was like untouched by the war. Like, I don't know enough about history.
Portugal was not involved in World War II.
Okay.
I
I
know
didn't
that
think
much.
they were. Yeah, so I was like, that's a very interesting, but it seemed like, I guess because Casablanca, like, why was that like the hub, the starting point for people to get back to America?
Well, they say you go from Marseille to I forget what the city was, but it
Oh,
was in
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Algeria, right?
Yeah, I think so. To Casablanca, which
Yeah.
is like such a roundabout way, but I mean, I guess it's wartime. Like, that makes a huge difference. So,
Right. You can't go over the continent to Lisbon. I don't think
so I wonder if that was like historically correct or just like a plot point for the movie?
I have no idea. I imagine it is, but who knows?
Yeah, really interesting. And like the fact that he was in a concentration camp, like that was like another interesting part. Like, how did he get out?
I don't know. They don't say.
Yeah, I have many questions.
It's not really material to the film.
Irrelevant, but
Yeah.
still left me wondering. Yeah, so I thought this was like it was a really good. I sometimes I don't like. I guess you would call it historical fiction, right?
Yeah, well, at the time, this was a contemporary drama,
Yeah,
so like this was
right,
just
right.
a fiction.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But sometimes I don't love things that are set during war because they can feel like depressing, like or just like I don't know, the political strife. Like sometimes it's just like not my genre, but I didn't think this one was bad in that way. Like, I thought it was like I said, kind of cool that like Rick had this decision to make whether he was gonna, stop his indifference and pick a side, or like you said, kind of like choose the selfish route for love, and say forget everything else. I really like that part of it. And it wasn't like I like that it was not super deliberated in the movie, you know what I mean? Like I like how it was kind of more like this internal struggle that like it's not drawn out. I think that's really honestly why I like the movie so much. It didn't feel like super drawn out to me. It felt like they said a lot and did a lot in like I forget how long it was, an hour and 40 minutes, something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I thought they did a good job of the storytelling in that it just because sometimes old movies like to me like just drag on. This one I felt it wasn't like that.
I feel like there's plenty of old movies that are new movies. I mean, that are like
Oh
2 hours plus for no real reason. Like they'll go into
yes,
regularly hit like 240, which I mean there were like 3-something hour movies with like intermissions back in these days. But
yes, yeah. But that's what I'm like. To me, I thought they did such a good job of like fitting it all in without it feeling like it was too much, or that it dragged out, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I thought it was pretty concise. In other words, like the delivery was great. And to me, like these are the things that like sometimes when I'm watching movies, I'm like, oh my gosh, like get to the point already, But I didn't feel that way here. And yeah, like I said, I liked Ingrid Bergman's performance, but I didn't like I wasn't like super in love with it. So I thought I don't know. Maybe how sometimes you have to watch it again and you really kind of feel it more because you have like the context of it and like for instance, like we didn't know they were lovers in Paris at first, and like going into it knowing that might make me feel differently about her character, but yeah, I mean, she did a good job, obviously. Like, nobody's going to argue that. But, I don't know. That's such a big name that I just thought it'd be a little bit different.
Yeah, well, Humphrey Bogart put in a really good performance for this, so.
Yeah. I thought so, too. At first, I was kind of like, oh, I don't love the, like, New York. You know what I mean? The, like played up kind of. And I don't even know that it was played out.
Yeah,
but like
I feel like some people just talked like that back then.
Yes, exactly. And so at first I was a little bit nervous about like, oh, is this gonna be one of those characters that I'm rolling my eyes at? But I really didn't. I liked his character a lot. I loved his delivery of the lines.
Yeah.
He, like, to me, like, his character really, I guess was the star for me in that he was kind of dry humor, and I enjoyed that. Thought it was interesting that, like, he brought his piano player with him. Obviously, they were, like, good friends.
Yeah.
And it seemed like, he's a nice guy, even though he seems to have this, like, indifference. But the way that his employees, talk to him, and this kind of, mutual respect kind of came through. So it's like, kind of just showed, like, he's a nice guy. So I just appreciated that. But how interesting that, like, I always find it interesting that during those times that, like, a lot of Americans, like, ended up in Europe, like, setting up shop there.
Well, this is in Africa.
Oh, well, yeah, in Africa, yeah, you're right. I keep it because it's French.
I mean, French-controlled Morocco.
Yeah. But no, thanks for pointing that out. But they end up across the pond, and I just always find it really interesting because it seems like it's not like it was super easy to travel then. But I guess it was.
Seems like he was in Europe for a while. They say, like, he gets kicked out, like, he can't go back to America. They don't say what his crime was, but...
Yeah, that was a question, too. I'm glad you brought that up. Like, what did he do in America?
Well, that's the point, is that you don't know, just that he can't go back there. So he's been hanging out around Europe, so...
Yeah, as part of the allure of his character, like, you're like, what was he into? There's a little mystery there.
Yeah. Well, we know he was in France and Spain at one point, so...
Yeah, like, what was he doing?
Well, we know what he was doing in Spain. He was fighting a war.
Yeah. Which that made the character even more interesting, having that context. So I loved how he kept saying, yeah, and what of it? I was like, that's awesome. I like this guy.
Yeah, the where he's like, he'll die in Casablanca. He's like, yeah.
He's like, yeah,
so will I.
I'm gonna die here too. It's a good place to do it. I'm like, this dude's my guy. Like, I don't know. I kind of liked him. But, yeah. That's the resistance. Like, I don't know. That all was just, like, super interesting to me. And, you kind of feel good at the end. Like, he does the right thing,
And goes off to join the resistance.
Yeah. Like, sends her with her husband, like, that kind of thing. So, lets him get away. Although, I mean, he did kill someone.
I'm sorry, we are talking about World War II.
Moral conflict, man. I mean, I can't even kill a bug, so I'm like...
What do you think those Nazis were doing?
I know, but it's like, just there, I guess in times of war, you gotta pick your side. But, yeah. Yeah. So you think it lived up to the hype, huh?
Yeah, definitely. Especially, like, just the acting, the character work, the delivery, like it keeps saying. I mean, of all the gin joints and all the towns in all the world,
yes,
like, that's really great line. I see why that became, like,
I
the
love
line.
I don't love the "Here's looking at you, kid." But
yeah.
I mean, obviously it's a line I've heard forever.
I think it's just because it's, like, his character work. Like, he says that to her, like, 4 times in the film.
Yes, yeah. I don't love that, but we'll always have Paris. Like, love that line. I mean, I use that line like when I leave. Like I just went on a trip to Paris recently, and I was like, we'll always have Paris. Being like dramatic. But yeah, like, I mean, these lines have stood the test of time, which I absolutely love that, because this in no way was like a part of, like, it was released so early, like before we were born, that it shouldn't seem relevant, and yet I'm still quoting lines from it, like, without having even seen the movie, I
mean, there's several stuff like that in movies from this era.
Yeah, but I think it's really interesting, like, popular culture, like, I just think it's super interesting, like, what transcends time, I don't know, I love that kind of stuff, so... I think that's what I really loved about this, is like, oh yeah, this is where the line's from, and this is, I mean, I already knew that, but I've never seen it in context, I just love that kind of stuff, so I thought it was cool.
Yeah. Oh, one little note I did like, that I noticed was, it's implied that he doesn't like that Rick rarely drinks, and he certainly doesn't like socially drink. You know, it's
Yeah.
like someone asks him to drink, and he like multiple times are like, Rick doesn't drink with anybody, or he's like, no, I don't drink with
Yeah.
anybody. And then once Ilsa shows up, he starts drinking. He's like day drinking, drinking with people.
Yes. I love that the wasn't it the police commander that kept like pointing that out?
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, second time you're drinking. Okay." Like, basically, I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, and I already said it, but the really funny line where they, or the scene, which was a great scene, but I also, like, when it started, I started laughing, where the Germans had commandeered the piano and are singing some song, and then the resistance leader comes up and tells the band to play the national anthem of France.
Yes, that was kind of cool.
Yeah, then the Germans are like, goes up to the French guy and he's like, shut down this bar.
Yeah.
And he's like, you can't shut me down on what grounds? And he said, I'm shocked to learn that there's gambling here, or something like that. And then immediately the guy comes up and is like, here's your winnings from tonight, sir.
Right. He's like, thank you. Yeah. I didn't understand, though, why did the police commander listen to the Germans? Was he just trying to...
Basically, like,
Yeah, okay.
is kind of like his boss.
Avoid conflict.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's was his whole thing. He's trying to, like, toe the line, basically.
Yeah.
Till the end.
Crazy.
Which, yeah, again, I don't know, like the history to know the specific situation, but it did seem like there was sort of a, like, they had some relative autonomy.
Yeah, it seemed like it. I mean, what a time. Like, the war had to be, like, crazy times.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess it made me, like, get, like I said, like, I'm really not super inclined to, like, watch things, like, in this setting, but, like, I thought it was, like, super interesting, so I'm like, maybe I gotta get into this.
Okay, so the Allies do take Casablanca, I think, later on in the war, so I think there was fighting, there.
Well, and old Rick joined the resistance, so...
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah, apparently there was a naval battle, a siege of Casablanca.
Ooh.
That happens after the events of the movie, obviously.
Yeah. So, you know how, like, in the last review of, the Murder on the Orient Express, I was like, I'm pretty sure that's where I was saying that, like, the beginning scenes where there's, like, all these extras and it's, like, the train station and it was just, like, a lot, like, kind of chaotic. I was a little nervous because the first scene in this is, like, a lot of people, tons of extras, and I was just kind of like, oh, no, I hope it's not, like, one of those movies again. But it wasn't. It was good.
I mean, I don't know what the problem with that in the Orient Express was, other than that it was, like, really slow.
It was just chaotic at first. Like, it was just a lot. Like, people walking in and out of frame. Like, just, you could tell it was, like, in a studio and they're trying to make it look like on the street kind of thing. And, not on the street, literally. But it was just, like, one of those things that I'm like, they have, like, 10 million extras, But this one didn't bother me. I was a little nervous at first.
Yeah, I don't know why that's a problem, but...
It's like sensory overload, I think.
Okay.
I don't know. I have weird little quirks like that.
I mean, that's, like, accurate for a city scene, though,
I know, it is. I don't know why that, like, gets me, but I was like, oh, man, not one of these again. But no, it quickly, became evident that it was not going to be like that.
Yep. I don't know where this was filmed. Okay, in California.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, I doubt they were going to shoot this on location.
Right.
Given what was happening at the time.
Exactly.
But, yeah. Good movie.
Yeah.
Glad we watched it.
Me too. Like, finally watched it. Now I get the references more. Great lines, great delivery. I like the characters. I kind of felt like maybe they could have developed the husband, Laszlo, a little bit more, but I guess it wasn't necessary.
No.
But he had, like, no personality. So.
Well, he's a resistance fighter and he has a wife.
Yeah, I guess, it's all we need to know. But yeah, I thought it was really good.
Yep. So next time we are watching another Ingrid Bergman movie.
No, we need a break.
Yeah, it's just
Sorry, Ingrid.
interesting that it happened that way, that we watched two.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, we need to watch more of these older movies, I think.
I don't know. I'm divided. Like, I like this one. I didn't love the last one.
Well, the last one's also like a 70s movie, so it's a bit of a different era, you know?
Yeah, that's very true. Yes.
So, I mean, you know, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of classics to pick from if, you know,
Yeah,
we so desire.
for sure.
Yeah, but I guess, you don't have anything else. I'll take us out.
All right.
Alright, well, this has been Beach View. Thanks for listening and tune in next time. Bye.
Bye.